This event is a bit more constructive. This event has been split into 4 sections. Historical record keeping, transitional justice, truth-telling, collective conscience, and nation building. Those are the 4 parts. I'd like to invite the Pastor Itua Igodalo to make the first presentation.
My words to the people of Asaba is that they should take heart, they should take heart, they should be strong, and they should find it in their hearts to totally forgive. And the Asaba people as a people should raise up a monument and a memorial to the names of these heroes, and if possible, and if able, scholarships for some of the children of the people who were involved at that time, and whatever kind of help they can give them. That is what I think the people of Asaba should do. My appeal, the next thing to the federal government of Nigeria is to, number 1, honor. Number 2, they should visit Asaba in a delegation and commiserate with the people of Asaba.
Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Ibrahim Khan, who is actually joining us from South Korea.
My appreciation generally goes to His Royal Majesty, the Asaba of Asaba, Professor Chike Edozian, CFR, and also to the Isama Aji of Asaba, Chief Chuck Ndukaeze, who is chairman of the Asaba Memorial Committee, for this kind invitation. Asaba Massacre Memorial Monument Project is as a memorialization initiative to then become that essential catalyst for the promotion of national reconciliation that is anchored on an honest discussion of historical grievance. My hope is that the Nigerian state and its people will take the cue and leverage on this initiative to construct an authentic national legacy for peace, justice, and reconciliation. Thank you very much.
Brought about by the Igbos to say that you beat a child and you force the child not to cry. That was exactly what we had in Asaba. And it is important, if we're serious about nation building, that we must come to terms with things like this, have this very, very uncomfortable conversation about our very, very dark past, and then we remind ourselves of these very, very historic bad that we did as a society, and ensure that we never do it again.
That is, if we take the case of Rwanda as a case study in our recent history in world contemporary times, the genocide and war crimes that went on in Rwanda is maybe 3-4 times the proportion of the isolated incident in Asaba, which was, by the way, the only mass killing that went on in the Nigerian Civil War. There was true reconciliation in that country. And what is happening today, Rwanda is the star of Africa. That is what reconciliation, when people tell themselves the truth and make peace with the truth. This is what Nigeria has failed to do.
So thank you very much for those comments. At this point, we're going to watch a video presentation by Professor Bird.
Esteemed Ahaba leaders and guests, Chairman Ndukaeze and the Memorial Committee, and all my friends in Asaba, good morning and greetings from Florida. First of all, I want to express my gratitude to the committee for their decision to include me among the group of 4 women recognized in this important commemoration. I'm humbled and honored to be in such distinguished company, and I'm sorry that I can't be with you in person. I believe it's fitting that this year's event focuses on the role of women and the sacrifices they made in Asaba. For almost a decade, my colleague and I researched what happened in 1967, examining documents and interviewing survivors and witnesses, presenting the work in our book, The Asaba Massacre, Trauma, Memory, and the Nigerian Civil War. The book actually begins with the story of a courageous woman, Celestina Asiche, who witnessed the murder of her young brother and many more in October 1967. Braving injury or worse, she smuggled a letter out of Asaba to her brother in Oxford, Patrick Asiche, and this letter remains to this day the only first-hand account of the Asaba Massacre written at the time. Throughout the book, we help tell the stories of more brave women, including those honoured with me at this commemoration. Of course, many hundreds of men died tragically, but it was women who mourned them and then faced the reality of rebuilding their lives and those of their children. Women kept families together by any means they could, often risking their own lives and safety to ensure that their children received something to eat and eventually an education. Asaba owes them a debt of gratitude, and they must not be forgotten. I do believe it's very important to build a nationally recognised memorial that the committee envisions. We'll probably never know exactly how many people died. We learn new names throughout our research, and many others lie unknown. Hundreds of Asaba civilians died in the days leading up to October 7th, and more died in a second operation in 1968. Civilians were slaughtered at nearby Ishiagu and at marketplaces and hospitals in Biafra itself. But Asaba was the largest single massacre and the most deliberate and systematic. These civilians were not unfortunate collateral damage of war. They were murdered in an undeniable war crime. The memorial will be a tribute to all those who suffered and died. The Nigerian government has yet to recognise the suffering of Asaba, arguing that the war is best forgotten, not understanding that it was truly a national tragedy that must be reckoned with. Remembering the past is not incitement, and it is not unpatriotic. Truth-telling is a crucial part of nation-building. For decades, the people of Asaba were forced to honour their dead in private, while their ongoing suffering was unacknowledged and denied. Our work, building on that of Emma Okocha, lifted that silence and took the atrocities to an international audience. Leaders in Asaba had built an impressive monument at the site of the October 7th killing field. And today, this new initiative will take the memorial process to a whole new level, bringing visibility throughout the nation and the continent. And my hope is that this memorial will be more than a symbol, that will become a living, breathing space. It would tell the stories of the men and women, known and unknown, who suffered, but would also be a place for education and peace-building initiatives that could serve as a model for the entire nation. I thank you again for inviting me, and I wish you well in the hard but crucial work that is ahead.
Our women saving the town from a massive epidemic. What did they do? They picked up their sons, they picked up their husbands, and they buried them, which actually is against the law in Asaba. We must acknowledge amongst ourselves that it happened. And I can assure you, the acknowledgement is 90% of the matter. Anything else that comes after the acknowledgement, and obviously a subsequent apology, 54 years is a long time. This matter has been pushed under the carpet for too long. And you see, a nation that continues to lie to its citizens, I don't think can make any progress.
I'd like to follow up with what Okweshi said. We're not trading. This is not like, oh yeah, if you give me some of this, everything will be okay.
What we desire and expect from this is concrete recommendations and action that translates to something. I'm not from Asaba, but I empathize with the people of Asaba because an injustice in Asaba is an injustice everywhere in Nigeria. But when we create advocacy and fundraising to put the right people in the power, that will address these issues and present more formidable solutions.
And I think we can take our advocacy to a higher level by ensuring that beyond what the government allows our children to read in secondary school, we will use our local authorities, local governments, and at least for this Nyoma area, and ensure that those in secondary school get to read books written on this massacre. Yes, we can forgive. Yes, we could have moved on, but we must not forget.
One of the things that my father has always said to me is that a people without a past are a people without a future. So I want to say that while, yes, we need to make sure that curriculum that our children are learning in school, what has happened in our history, and it is just not the history of this incident in Asaba. I was amused. Our people, and I won't even say the youth, I would even say my age mates, don't even know our own history. So let us start addressing this matter by addressing it through ourselves, our children, because we are the ones sending children. It is also on each and every one of us and the government that we hold accountable for our future. We must also hold ourselves. Thank you.
This is a topic that is very close to my heart because I was present at Legacy Road, Ministry of Works, and I saw what happened. The first is that maybe Asaba people of my generation, even much less the younger generation, know about it. And that is the biggest tragedy. Do you know that Asaba families have gone into extinction because of what happened on that day? And you now ask yourself, what did we do? If we, the adults, don't know the story, we don't know the narrative, if we are not teaching our siblings, we're not teaching our children, and encouraging them to teach their younger ones and to take their own children when they get married, who is going to teach them? Nobody. And if anybody teaches them, they're going to give them their own view of the picture. When we have a town's meeting, and all of us, please, make an attempt to join the town's meeting, Asaba Union meetings, and when you join them, things like this will be part of the agenda of your meeting.
Every speaker has emphasized history. Political advocacy, Chinedu mentioned that. Record keeping, media advocacy, keeping this story alive. Movies, short stories, etc. Literature, poetry, fiction. All of these are things that have been highlighted. For me, this adds up to a foundation. This is just a suggestion to the people. I hope it is taken up if we take this strand together.
Going forward, my inclination is what we need to do to keep that alive. So we still have to work hard. We still have to do what is necessary to highlight those things and keep the flag flying. People will come to us and see something on the ground that tells the story. I thank you all. I appreciate all of you.
What I just want to add to what has been said, the suggestions about history, about the culture, about teaching the youth, some of these painful things is that please reach out to other ethnic groups as well.
Democracy concedes nothing unless you demand it. You've got to make the effort and take concrete steps to establish, as somebody had said, a very strong advocacy, but also to make a demand on the state.
I would first of all say, I am really sorry. I am sorry for the ignorance that I have actually shown all this time, right? Or my brothers have shown. I am sorry for the pain that everybody has gone through. And for this, I actually pledge my support. My support, especially with what you're trying to do, because I know what you're trying to do is going to create a narrative, and that narrative will be actually repeated through the young ones. Make sure that I speak to all my friends, and that commemoration that you are trying to do will succeed.
Whatever you want to say about the side, whether this side of the Civil War or that side of the Civil War, you cannot deny a person their own personal account. They're not saying they hate you. They're not saying I don't like Nigeria. They're not saying you are a zoo or you are this or that. They are simply saying this happened to me. This is my experience. Try to ignore it. They may try to say, well, let's stop talking about it. Let's move on. But no one of any substance has come to say these things did not happen. What happened here in 1967 affects every single one of us wherever we are. Because any of those people could have been our relatives in different circumstances. That is the importance of historical recording. That is the importance of the recording of the Asaba events. And it is so important that what we have done here today, no matter how rudimentary we may feel it may be, is an important step in that crucial historiography. Thank you.
Praise the effort of the Asaba people who have decided it was time for them to take action.
The Asaba people should make a demand on the state. I think that is the way to go. Not violent, but just make a demand and keep pushing for it.
But this is taking it international. And from all the things I'm hearing, we are looking at something that becomes available for prosperity and properly documented. So really, as an Asaba, I'm saying thank you for that. You understand? When we have pictures of these people and pictures of that day, so when you walk into the memorial and you can see the pictures, the impact of what happened that day gets you. See, there's not like reading about it is not the same thing as seeing it.
Your memorialization is something which should resonate and will resonate throughout the country. You're not asking for special treatment. You want everyone to be acknowledged. In many ways, the memorialization of the Asaba victims is a memorialization of all of the victims on every side, of all the victims of the Nigerian Civil War. And from this provides an important and essential foundation for a dialogue of recovery, a dialogue of unity, a dialogue of national identity and unity, which is so lacking and so needed in your country.
I always make it quite clear that the killings in Asaba was not within any kind of war context. Nobody should take any comfort in the narrative that this was a collateral damage. There's no collateral damage between troops and civilians. The governor must be the leading player, the leading light for the event of yesterday. The lady, the first lady of the state, the event being dedicated to women, to Asaba women, of course, will be the cheerleader. And he didn't stop there. He wrote a powerful letter to our president, President Buhari. Because actually Buhari, our president, is the chief monarch. Would the president consider that any other thing would be more important? And I say this to him because I know he listens and I know he's advised of these events. This is his country. It's my country as much as it is his. That on a human level, this is something that will be embraced by both our governor, his wife. They were not here. They did not send anybody. We're not impressed with that. In fact, the reason I'm raising it is to bring it to his attention that Asaba women were asking me about it and he needs to know about it. In Nigeria, we're always afraid of government. And it's something that we should all ask ourselves, why are we afraid of government? Is it not your government? Are they not your servants? Nigerians, step up. Own your country, own your history, own your lives, and stop being slaves in your own party. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank all the people that were involved, Nigerians, non-Nigerians. It would be nice to know why such a happy community and a happy nation all of a sudden experienced this tragedy. What was responsible for it? Why Asaba? And this is the beginning to start the dialogue, not just within Asaba, but across cultural, religious, tribal lines. So I'd like to commend Chuck. I'd like to commend Obueshi Chike Oge. I'd like to congratulate Ngozi Edozian, Princess Ngozi Edozian, who happens to be the daughter of the Asaba Massacre, Chuck and his wife, Fatty, and everybody else that was part of this. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending, and we will see you in future iterations of this project, whether by at next year's event or any other thing. You have answered us now, and I'm sure you will be part of it as we call on you. Thank you very, very much for the energy, the time, the compassion, and the good heart. Thank you.
Oh,